off notifications?
I did not, so fair warning, may pop up. But I'm not sharing my screen or anything, so we're good to go.
No, and you have a nice background as well.
That's actually our hospitality product that is back there.
Ooh,
That
cool.
we just got done last week at the Hospitality Industry Technology Conference down in Orlando. And so this is what we built for Caesars. And
That's
actually,
awesome.
show you. So this is a demo. I have a remote in my hand. So yeah, people can go in here. They can book all the reservations directly from this system using QR codes. We're getting ready to integrate it furthermore, but yeah, it's a pretty.
Looks great.
Yeah, we're very happy with it. I mean, it's like it's really like nothing else that any hotel or hospitality has ever seen. So we're very
Oh,
excited about this product.
will we be able to book that through the self-serve platform as well?
Yes, you will.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So Curtis Evans, what is it that you do at Edison Interactive?
I'm the director of ad operations, as well as I head up all of our programmatic strategy when it comes to both our existing inventory, which of course is the golf carts that we have out there on the Shark Experience presented by Verizon, and then obviously with our new hospitality product and anything else that might come up. I manage all of our programmatic relationships with all of our value partners over at these various SSPs, from Place Exchange to Hivestack, Vistar, Yahoo. And then additionally to that, managing relationships with DSPs as well to make sure that their buyers are always aware of our inventory and keeping it top of mind.
Great. And what is it that motivated you guys at Edison Interactive to adopt a self-serve platform, and how did that kind of come to play?
When we sat back, it was about a year ago, we really started going with this project. Actually, it was almost exactly a year ago as I think about it.
Yeah.
What we really realized is that there's a large segment of businesses that are more or less being underserved, not intentionally, but they're the mom and pops and the small businesses and even the medium-sized businesses that really don't necessarily have the budgets or the access to be able to advertise, especially in the digital out of home space, and they don't know how to do it. And it can feel very daunting and a very overwhelming process for them. With the self-serve, we are immediately giving them access to inventory they probably never knew they had access to, and if they did, they wouldn't know what to do with it. So, we looked at it where, if I'm a restaurant owner and I'm golfing at the Ridge at Castle Pines North down here, and I want to advertise on that course, I don't know where to even begin. So having a self-serve platform that we are promoting allows these people to go, oh, I can actually advertise my business on where I play, and I can get out there and get in front of my customers that are actually relevant to me versus, using the Google approach, which can feel a little bit more like spray and pray, and it's a little bit harder to get access to some of this inventory. And then it really also came down to, resources. We are a smaller company, and there's only so many people that can get out there and beat the streets and beat the pavement and try to get these additional businesses advertising on it. And so we saw it as an opportunity to kind of act as its own salesperson to a certain extent. And then additionally, we also saw the opportunity that, this can act as a warm lead generation tool as well. So that was really what drove us. We just realized that we were probably missing out on a good chunk of revenue by not having a self-serve platform.
Yeah, like leaving money on the table, right?
Exactly.
And you were into that already, but I was going to ask you about the benefits of having the self-serve platform, and using it as a lead generator would be one, and then being able to get access by these smaller advertisers. What else would you say are the main benefits for you guys?
Beyond those two, off the top of my head, those are the two that always come to mind first and foremost. And really the benefit, it benefits us from a revenue perspective, because obviously there's less cost involved for us as a company to go out and, we're going to get all these small businesses. Well, we don't have to worry about paying a salesperson a salary and a commission to go out there and find these, and they can literally come to us in this perspective. So that's really, it's a cost benefit. It becomes a profit center fairly quickly once you start putting the pieces in place in the correct timing and listening to what Dan Ads has to say about this. But really, those are the major benefits. It really is, it benefits us, but I really look at it as a huge win for the small businesses and the mom and pops out there that just, they're still calling their Village Voice and advertising on paper when, that it just doesn't doesn't get it done. I have a friend that is a chief operating officer of a smaller insurance company here in Colorado that is actually regional, and he has been very clear with all of his offices that if you don't go into the digital space, they're not going to walk to you. You're going to have to go out and find them, and this is how you get them to your door.
That's great. And this is the first of its kind, right, within digital out of home as well. So that really sets you apart.
It sets us apart, and it definitely we're also very keenly aware that it puts your tech team through the ringer to a certain extent, because it's a few more products than you guys were used to setting up, but we all work together, and it came together in a really nice fashion.
Why do you think, just in general, that there's been this increase in demand for self-serve platforms in the industry?
I think it's really, I don't like to use the term the Great Resignation, but I do believe that that's had a major impact on a lot of industries, and especially in the digital advertising space. And there are fewer salespeople out there, and the salespeople that are out there have really put their focus in, like any good salesperson does, where can I make the most money? And they're fully aware that a $50,000 campaign is going to make them a lot more money than a $5,000 or $6,000 campaign is going to. And so it really is, it's backfilling that role. And I really think that, these people out there that are even more so underserved now because of this, they need that help. And this is giving them those tools. And of course, it's not just for our inventory. You look at, what Dan Ads has built for all these other publishers. Well, now you got people that have access to all of that. And they didn't know how to do it back in the day. So it's really just this Great Resignation has benefited some industries, it's hurt some industries, but it's definitely driving people in that direction.
If you were to talk to other media owners kind of thinking about jumping into self-serve, what kind of advice would you give them with everything you know now?
The first piece of advice I would give especially when they're working on Dan Ads, is be patient, but be diligent. It's kind of a dichotomy there, but this is not an easy process. Once you get everything built, the building part's actually kind of the easier part. We made it harder than most publishers normally would, and that's just a side of it. Because of the way our inventory is set up, it's just very different than a traditional publisher would be. And then the next piece of advice is really lean on your team at the Dan Ad side with your expertise. We were on weekly calls with Nina and the product team, and it's everybody keeping each other in check, but you guys know better than anybody else on what process needs to be followed. And that's where the publishers that are coming on board need to, and this is a phrase you just hear all the time, but they need to trust the process, and they need to follow the process and listen to what you guys have to say. There's a reason that so many publishers have gotten on board with you guys, and it's because you guys know what you're doing. And be patient, find different ways to promote it yourself. Be very, really get your marketing team involved. Sales and marketing don't happen without each other. They're not mutually exclusive. And so if you have a good marketing department that will help get out there and promote the self-serve platform that you built. So get on your LinkedIn, get on your socials, but you need to get eyeballs on what this thing actually is and start driving people towards it. But I say first and foremost, though, top of the line is listen to what the Dan Ads team has to say, because Nina's expertise was, if we didn't have those calls with her, we would be in a very different position right now.
It's good that we have this on tape, so I'll be able to show this to her.
Oh yeah, I Nina has my Venmo. She knows how much she needs to send me for that, but it's
okay. What would you say what would be the biggest challenge for a publisher?
I think the biggest challenge is the ramp up period. It is. And this is very much dependent on who the publisher is. If you are an Expedia group, for example, you have a much higher visitation rate to your Advertise with Us page, which I'm sure is how people end up there, depending on budgets and everything else. But regardless, you need to be patient. This is not a set it and forget it thing. You really need to be very hands-on with the product that you've built, and you need to follow up on every single piece that is required, both during the build-up phase and then also once you go into that launch phase, and really go through the platform with a fine-tooth comb. You're going to find little nuances that you may want changed because this is the first iteration. You got to be ready to iterate as you go through this process and with the Dan Ads team, but be patient. But don't let it sit and just gather dust. It's a massive win, but you got to put resources behind it to manage it.
And the massive win, and we've been into that, but the opportunity side of self-serve, what would you?
I mean, you said earlier, you're leaving money on the table. I look at it almost as found money. If a small shoe company based out of somewhere in the Southeast decides that, hey, I want to advertise on these screens, at no point did they ever reach out to us. At no point did we ever hear, did we ever try to reach out to them? But suddenly they're spending money and they're putting their creatives on our devices. That is the win right there. It's literally found money. And then it opens you up through the Dan Ads community to tons of other publishers that you get to meet and interact with that, it's like going to the ops conferences. You are learning from these other publishers on what tricks of the trade that they're doing. Because everyone that I've met that's worked with the Dan Ads team is extraordinarily open about what their lessons that they've learned are and how they've been successful and what challenges they're facing. And then sometimes how I can help them. And that's the opportunity there. It just opens up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah. And it is a kind of, it's a pioneering part of the industry, I would say. So it's definitely, we need everybody's collective input to really take it to the next level. Yeah.
The last version of the other version of self-serve that we see is people going on, in Google ads and doing it that way. And, that's got its effectiveness, but it doesn't look as good. That's the other thing is that through the tool, these small restaurants, some of these restaurants don't have the budget to even build a creative. They don't have that. They don't have an agency that's out there designing theirs. We can actually help them through that process on our platform and build their creative right there on the spot. And, for them, that's just a huge win because, that's one of the fears that some of these restaurants and all these other small businesses probably have is they say, well, great, what am I supposed to put in my ad? Well, let us help you through that right here on the screen. We can literally take you from start to finish without taking you else anywhere, going to an outside agency or anything like that.
And just the digital out-of-home space in general is extremely interesting, and it seems like it's growing intensely as well.
It is. It's got nowhere to go but up. Last year, I'm trying to remember the exact. So last year, digital advertising spend, digital out-of-home accounted for 0.5% of the total spend in digital advertising last year. So sky's the limit on this right now. Those budgets are going to get carved out more and more and more, and those are from the top line stuff. But let's start filling that number up from the bottom line as well.
And what is it that now we're kind of coming into the digital out of home area? But I find that really interesting as well. But just how would you say that that part of advertising in general, what is it that sets digital out of home apart from other types of advertising?
One of the first things is the ratio of people that are seeing your advertisements. So in traditional web, mobile, in-app advertising, it is a 1-to-1 ratio. So it is Lisa on her device, she's seeing the ad, there's one set of eyeballs on it. Well, in digital out of home, it can be 2 sets of eyeballs. It can be 100 sets of eyeballs, depending on the measurement and how that was done. And so you're getting more viewership for every single time that one of your ads plays. And it allows you to be even more contextual and targeted with your timing. So for example, if you're in New York City and you are buying advertising on a digital screen down in the subways, well, your ad you may want it to look different at 8 a.m. than you're going to want it to look at 5 p.m. because you're going to know who your customer really is and during that time. So you can be very targeted on, I heard somebody refer to it as your customer's journey throughout their day. They leave their house, they get in their car, or if they're in New York, they walk to the subway station. Well, what ads are going to be relevant to that person? If it's 7 a.m, they might need to pick me up and they need a cup of coffee from Blue Bottle. But at the end of the day, it could be something else entirely. So that's a really big part of where digital out of home, and it's new inventory. Inventory has a scarcity to it. There's only so many websites that are out there, and there's so many people that have visitation. Well, this is a whole new place for people to be able to put screens in here at Edison Interactive. We look at it as every screen should have the opportunity to be a profit center, not a cost center for any industry that we go into. And that's where advertising comes in. That's where they're going to make their money on it.
Nice. And in general, just through your journey now, the past year in terms of self-serve, is there anything else you would like to add, or any other reflections that has come up during the journey?
No, I think I covered everything pretty well what I wanted to. The only thing I'll say is that if PO ever calls you and says that I'm taking you out to dinner, don't say no, and just get out there and have a good time. But I go back to, for anybody that joins, onto the Dan Ads platform, it's critical to be patient. Make sure you're checking off all the boxes as you move along, and listen to what the Dan Ads team has to say. That's really going to be your win right there.
The end, as Paul and our team usually says.
And hard stop.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Curtis, for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
I will be stopping the recording wherever I find that button.
Okay.